Hello, everyone. Erik Roth here, shamanic astrologer, and bringing to you another annual video and talking about the astrological outlook for the following year. So I do this every year at the end of each year to look ahead and see what's happening for the following year. And this is hitting just the major highlights of the year, not an in-depth look at to each aspect that's going to go on every day or every week here. So we're going to look at the major things that are taking place because as usual, there's always each month the moon will conjunct every single planet. There will be some interplanet conjunctions like Mercury and Venus that I won't be really getting into talking about. There is a Mars and Venus conjunction coming up in 2024 that will be highlighted because it's something that doesn't happen all that often. And so I'll be sharing more about that along with the other themes of 2024. I've done a couple of presentations on this already in person here in Oregon, one in Ashland, Oregon, and another one in Portland, Oregon, just this past weekend. So let's get to it. 2024 is on the horizon. All right. So looking ahead to 2024, the astrological outlook for the year 2024 with your host, your facilitator, Erik Roth. And we're going to be looking at all the different things. So let's look at the themes for 2024. All right. So we got a preview of this in 2023, but one of the big things that's happening much more so in 2024 is Pluto in Aquarius. And then this is the ongoing death rebirth of astrological death rebirth of the US that continues through 2024. So since Pluto will be in Capricorn for a few over the months of 2024, both in the beginning, the first 3 weeks of 2024, and in the between the September and November period of 2024. Jupiter will be moving into Gemini. It'll be in Taurus for the first 4.5 months, almost 5 months, and then moves into Gemini late May. Chiron, Aries, and alchemy. We're going to talk a little bit about Chiron, the North Node, and alchemy. I don't have a specific slide for this, but it'll be something about as I go into the planets and what other things are coming in. I'm going to be sharing about that, and I'm going to be doing a specific separate video for most of these, if not all of these, but also look ahead to Chiron, Eris, and alchemy and how that's going to be helping us, particularly the alchemy of how we heal our wounds too. We're also in this first corner turn from 2020. This has a lot to do with Saturn and Jupiter in a square with each other later in 2024 and into 2025. And then our cauldron of co-creation, something I've been talking about for years. And at this turning of an age, and from one age to a new age, we are in ending one age currently, and not far from the transition period into between the old the current age and the new age. All right, first let's talk about what Pluto is in shamanic astrology, since this is the core of what I bring in here, as originally taught by Daniel Giammario. So Pluto is symbolic of one of the three classic worlds, representing the underworld, along with another planetary object, Chiron. Pluto connects us to the realm beneath our conscious selves, the unconscious, and deeply associated with the transformation of the soul and psyche. This is not a physical realm per se, but can arrive in our lives in the material realm as as a result of feelings and reactions to fears we experience. Pluto doesn't have a monopoly on fear, but fear is an initiator into the underworld. And so there could be fears that can show up in any kind of planetary initiation in general. But for Pluto, it's sort of the deeper seated soul level fears, the deeper level of fearing in a sense, like almost like an egoic death rebirth. So what does the ego fear in some ways? And, losing control, losing sense of security, a sense of its own identity. And, these kinds of fears that can show up in a big way through, I'm not talking like a fear of heights so much, although that can transport one down into some of the deeper realms too, as an example. But Pluto can help us through these fears realize the treasures that are buried within ourselves through navigating the fears and the deep feelings. To access these treasures, it requires a process of surrender to the initiation self and our deepest nightmares, but also death rebirthing as a kind of release, it's a theme of Pluto and in a person's life, but also in the collective. The humanity is a collective in Pluto transits. So in 2022, there were 3 exact Pluto conjunctions of the U.S. natal position: February 20th, July 11th, and December 28th of 2022. But Pluto has been within 1 degree of the natal position of Pluto on the U.S. chart on occasion here in 2023, and it will be within 2.5 degrees of the U.S. position in 2024 as well. And I say that 2.5 degree thing because that's about where it was when we had the 2020 pandemic that lasted through 2021, 2022. These are, and the virus is, still here to stay, but with the ramifications, the ripples it sent through the Pluto and Capricorn themes, which have to do with systems and structures and all of that. Well, that's continuing on, rippling through our process, particularly here in the United States. So here's this is something I talked about in previous videos, but it'd be good to refresh this a little bit. So we've been in the great composting, and in 2008, when Pluto first moved into Capricorn, is when we had the Great Recession hit the housing market and some banking collapses. We're in this collective surrender to our fears, apocalyptic visions, dreams, projections, something that Richard Tarnas writes about in his book, Cosmos and Psyche. And this is a chrysalis stage for the U.S., which can infect and impact, most other countries in the world because of the U.S.'s influence, if you will, and or, we can get extreme reactions of, best of friends to the worst of enemies. And that has ripples through the time of this U.S. Pluto return. So systems and structures are being detoxified, which can include political, government, economic, health, education, social systems, all on the table. This is, again, a lot of it related to Capricorn. So seeds of transformation and deep soulful healing are also possible during this time too. So it's not all about just facing fears, although that's a big part of it. There's also the potential for those deeper fears to open up treasures within us. Seeds of transformation, deep soulful healing, the storm before the calm. So we're in multi-year period of, we can call it a storm, if you will. And whenever we're in a transition from one age to the next, it's pretty chaotic. So it's natural for us to go through this. Pluto in Aquarius, which is happening now. This is our long trek has through Capricorn since 2008. It'll begin to end in 2023, and Pluto ingresses into the sign of Aquarius in March of 2023. But that's just for 2.5 months, and then it retrograded back, as we saw, for the rest of 2023. And then 2024 spends about close to 10 months. 3 weeks, as I mentioned, in January in sign of Capricorn, and then all the way until September 1st of 2024 that it'll spend in Aquarius. Sorry, in Aquarius. And then it retrogrades back into Capricorn from September 1st, 2024 to November 19th. So that's about 2.5 months. So, between 9 and 10 months, almost 10 months or so, that it's in the sign of Aquarius. And then it stays in Aquarius from November 19th, 2024 until March 8th, 2043. And then there's a short period of time where where after it goes into Pisces, it comes back into Aquarius, the last part of 2043 through early 2044. So the themes of Aquarius, to reshare again here. Aquarius is the sign of consciousness, evolution, and expansion. The sign connects us to the leading edge of thought and future landscapes in humanity. Aquarius involves itself in change for the greater benefit of humanity, but this depends upon the person or a community's perspective what really is of greater benefit. As we see, particularly people that are much more involved in technology, want to advance technology at all costs, and meaning that they're not stopping to think about the moral implications of technology. That can be the shadow of that. And Pluto can definitely bring out the shadow of whatever sign that it's going through. So it can bring out the shadow of technological things. And we've been seeing that over these past years. We've seen the rise of artificial intelligence in 2023 and self-driving cars more so now, and all the little errors and things that pop up, and the challenges that AI and all of that goes with it are encountering to try to get into the mainstream. And there can be excitement at times of new technology, but there can also be the challenge of trying to adapt to it. And that's part of what humanity is about to face here over these next couple of decades. But Aquarius is not about one's feelings or empathy. The archetype of Aquarius can theorize about universal love, but to enact upon it or is kind of like a different kind of a universe, to actually go into the feelings, go into what is love, go into what is the deeper feelings of the primal zone. Aquarius is more on the scientific level or the higher spiritual level, and it can have trouble accessing the deeper realms. But that's where we come in as human beings. We have the potential in us to, even with the Aquarius, to go into the deeper levels. So that mix is going to be coming in a big way in 2024. Mars will be doing something really, really interesting. This is kind of skipping a little bit ahead toward the end of 2024, but Mars moves into the sign of Cancer and Leo. And this is when it's going to go into opposition with the sun. And that usually that means it begins a whole new cycle. So about a 6 to 8 month period when it's in one or two signs. In this case, it's going to be in Cancer and Leo. So you can see some of the dates here between November and February and beyond. There'll be more of a focus in on this in the 2025 video, and just a separate video in general about that Mars-Sun opposition and what it means. But that'll end the Mars and Gemini overtone transit that I've talked about. So I want you to definitely look up that and see more about what that means. But January 15th, 2025 marks the end of this current Mars synodic cycle and the beginning of the new one, which will have a Cancer overtone. And so that is that January 15th marker. So Sun-Mars opposition right here, January 15th, 2025. All right. So the last Mars retrograde period that we had prior to that was October 30th, 2022 and January 12th. So Mars will go retrograde at the end of the year, December 6th, 2024 in the sign of Leo, skip into Cancer, have the Mars, actually that's should be January 15th, 2025. So the Mars, whatchamacallit, Mars-Sun opposition at 2612 Cancer on January 15, 2025. And then Mars will station direct. It goes all the way back to 17 degrees Cancer. So if someone has personal points in the early degrees of Leo and the second, like the last 13 degrees between 17 and 29 degrees of Cancer, this is going to stir up a lot of energy for you. All right, so one of the things that happened in 2023 and prior years is all major planets going into direct motion. So in this case, if we have, is it 60, it is 65 days, just making sure. So for a 65-day period from January 26, 2024 to April 1st, 2024, all the major planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and Aries are all in apparent direct motion for 65 days. And then on April 1st, 2024, Mercury will be the first to station retrograde, followed by Pluto on May 2nd. So if we ignore Mercury's retrograde, all the planets will be direct for about another 31 days after that, after Mercury goes direct. So, Mercury goes retrograde. So we see that we're in this pattern where there's a period where there's a lot of planets, almost all planets, if not all planets, going direct. And then there's also periods where a bunch of them are going retrograde at the same time. We experienced that in 2023 and in 2022. And you can see here the breakdown. In 2021, we had a couple of periods, 2020 and 2019. We had this long period from 2017 all the way, it'll go all the way until 2027. And then 2028 and 2029, we won't have any all planets direct, utilizing these parameters with the major astrological planets here. Now, somebody might use the asteroids and other things, and that would, you could create other kinds of charts and tables based on that. So planet direct waves are times when things are just moving at a faster clip. Things are accelerated, and the beginning of 2024 is definitely going to be a highly accelerated time, particularly starting in the end of January. Although most of the planets will be direct by the time we get to the end of December, as Chiron and Jupiter go direct within 4 days of each other at the end of December 2023. Now, the Mercury retrograde periods, there's one that ends the first day of 2024. It started at 8:29 Capricorn, goes all the way back when it stations direct at 22:10 Sagittarius. And that's on January 1st. And then on April 1st, 2024 to April 25th, so this is about 24-day period, 24 to 25-day period it's all fire signs, mostly here, 2713 Aries to 1558 Aries. And then in the August 4th through August 28th, we have it starting in Virgo, kind of like the Capricorn one, starting Earth sign and transitioning into fire. And then the last retrograde period of 2024 is from November 25th to December 15th of 2024. That's all in the sign of Sagittarius. So you can see Sagittarius shows up 2 times, and then the other 2 fire signs, Aries and Leo. And Mercury retrograde is a creative time. It's a time to review and rewind and focus in on, better communications with others, and not to move at a fast pace, and thinking everything's going to be hunky-dory with every communication you send, whatever medium you happen to send it in, and you want to confirm that and make sure with people during these times. It doesn't mean you can't plan for the future or buy plane tickets or buy a house or whatever it might be. It just means you got to have an awareness that there could be some intangibles, that loose ends that get kind of funky during these times, especially when we have such a heavy reliance on technology. Also, at the beginning of the year, we have February 11th through March 3rd is the Mars-Venus conjunction. So this happens in Aquarius, February 21st, 2024. But the window between February 11th and March 3rd is from Capricorn also into Aquarius. And this is going to involve Pluto as well, Pluto and Aquarius. There's this whole thing here where the masculine and feminine are going into kind of a semi-underworld with Pluto. And so there's something transformational about the masculine and feminine archetypes getting together and having this alchemy, inner alchemy taking place. So ideally, this could show up as an intent to bridge ideals and evolve consciousness through innovation and cosmic perspective. It can, alchemize the process of evolution and involution together. So one of the more ancient symbols of the masculine and feminine are the triangles, pointing down for the feminine, pointing up for the masculine, which have to do with evolution going up and involution going down. Involution is spirit involving itself into matter. And that can be just as equally important as evolution, and both are needed in this world. Okay, so here, oh, Uranus and Jupiter, yes. So there is another very, very big conjunction taking place in April of 2024, and that is Jupiter and Uranus together. And this only happens once every 13 or 14 years. So beginning July 21 of, sorry, oh yeah, that's in 2023. July 21, 2023, Jupiter comes within 10 degrees of Uranus. October 23rd, 2023, it leaves a 10-degree arc. So we already got a little bit of an insight between late July and late October of Jupiter and Uranus coming together. And then by February 15th, Jupiter comes again within 10 degrees of Uranus. And then, of course, April, it comes within 1 degree. And then 5 days later, it conjuncts Uranus at 2149 Taurus. On April 26th, Jupiter and Uranus leave the 1 degree orb. And then finally on June 16th, so that's quite a long period, about a 4-month period where they're within 10 degrees of each other. Whereas in 2023, that was only a 3-month period. So this is a longer period of time, Jupiter and Uranus getting together. And so what does this mean? So I've got this highlighted here in the natal chart showing you. And Jupiter will be visible in the early evening skies for quite a while here in the first 4.5 months or so of 2024. And then you see Uranus is not a visible planet to the naked eye in general. And so wherever you see Uranus for a good portion of 2024, I'm sorry, wherever you see Jupiter, you're going to know that Uranus is there as well. So what does this mean? Well, this pair can co-create or stimulate unexpected growth and breakthroughs in the world. In the sign of Taurus, this would represent a potential for radical change and expansion in our conveniences, pleasures, and comforts in the physical realm. Our relationship with the material realm has been going through evolution since Uranus entered Taurus in 2018. Jupiter is in Taurus from May 16, 2023, and will leave Taurus finally on May 25th, 2024. And this revolution helped spark breakthroughs in the internet's relationship with the physical realm, where just about anything can be ordered online, but it also brought a lot of greater stresses to the Earth. And I think that this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction may be a time where we have some semblance of a breakthrough somewhere in there to help us have a more healthier relationship with the Earth, and how we, the supply chain of, what we mine, what we gather, from Mother Earth, and making it to our house in some form, or our business in some form or another. This is the big question here, and our relationship to that. But it can also help us as human beings de-stress too, meaning like, what is our relationship to pleasure, and how can we introduce a slower pace in our life at times when it's needed? And that's a question, inquiry, that these two planets being in Taurus can help us connect with. The last time that they conjuncted in the sign of Taurus was in 1941. They can get together on this 83-year track. So every 83 years, they can come back together very close to where they were 83 years prior. Now, again, every 13 to 14 years this happens, and the next time this will happen is in the sign of Cancer, and it'll happen 3 times in 2037 and 2038. But then Jupiter moves into Gemini in May, and the archetype of Gemini is the eternal youth, the minstrel, the storyteller, writer, networker, Peter Pan, sacred clown. Um, uh, so it stays there. Actually, not Taurus. That's a error on my part. It stays in the sign of Gemini from May 25th, 2024, and stays there about a year until June 9th, 2025. Jupiter is known as the year star, so it can be there for an entire year. That originally came from the more ancient Chinese way of doing astrology. They would call the Jupiter the year star because it would stay in a zodiacal constellation for about a year, depending on how they sized each of the constellations. So if you divided the sky, the ecliptic, into 12 parts, it would stay in that 1/12th part for 1 year. So Jupiter amplifies anything it touches. It expands it. And it'll expand and amplify Gemini's qualities of the imagination and the mind. It's a sign where conventional rules don't apply and the desire for the mind to know it all. The last time this transit happened was June 2012 and June 2013. So it's a chance for the mind to be more highly active. So Jupiter in Taurus was a much more slower pace example of Jupiter in a sign. Well, Gemini is the opposite. It's a much faster, more strongly moving pace, and will kind of bounce around the energy a bit more and make it a little bit more unpredictable to some extent, the kind of the year of the contrarian. But one of the interesting things about that is it's going to come up here after I talk about Saturn. But Saturn in Pisces will be squaring Jupiter and Gemini, and this will create a different kind of a experience than just a regular Jupiter and Gemini transit, which can be more emphasis on fun, entertainment, networking, communication. But Saturn thrown in there is like, well, we got to work on the practical side too, and how do we do the right thing and all of that. And that's where Saturn comes in. Saturn's in Pisces, and we've seen this since March 7th of 2023. And I talked about this in last year's videos about Saturn and Pisces, as well as the 2023 outlook. But some of the themes about Saturn and Pisces are the illusions of our lives, in our lives that we have, and being able to see them in reality. And what dreams can we bring into reality, say spirit into matter, and what would work on a practical level. And there's also an emphasis on sustainable healing and the wholeness of our bodies and psyche, and then our responsibilities around our own spiritual development, empathy, and being of service to others. One of the interesting things about the Saturn Pisces transit is there's been a focus on different methodologies of holistic healing coming into the mainstream, coming into like, well, how do we create rules or regulations around it? Say with, plant medicine and with cannabis. It's coming into a harder level of reality around it. Some of the states that passed it here in the United States were, several years ago, and some even longer than that. But now more and more, and even the federal government's looking into creating a passage of legalizing cannabis. And so this during the Saturn Pisces transit, could very well be that time period. But then Saturn and Jupiter square each other here. And there are 3 squares, like 3 square meals, for example. Jupiter Saturn squares 2024 to 2025. August 19th and December 24th are the 2 squares that are in 2024. And then the third one happens on June 15th, 2025, when Jupiter will have moved into the sign of Cancer, and Saturn will have moved into the sign of Aries. And then this is all about this first quarter turn that I talked about in the beginning. So what happened in 2020, in December of 2020, when they were conjunct, these 2 planets were conjunct, but they got close to each other a couple of times in 2020. And so this is being 4 years removed from that. We're getting into that that space of like, what is that corner turn from where we were in 2020? This is a check mark. This is an intersection. So Jupiter and Saturn are highlighting that, and they can provide both balance, but also a lot of strain and stress into the human collective with this square, these squares that are happening. And then when we get to 2029 and 2031, we have 6 oppositions with each other between Saturn and Jupiter. And that'll be a whole different thing. And each of these are, they're emerging from that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And when Pluto was involved in that too, among other things in 2020. So this is our chance to look at it more closely and find out, like, do we need to correct our course? And if so, how do we do that? This is a chance collectively to come together and decide that. All right, let's look at the eclipses for 2024. In March and April, we have 2 eclipses, a penumbral lunar eclipse, which is just a really, really minor shadow eclipse that takes place at 5 degrees Libra and is visible in the Pacific Ocean and North and South America. But on April 8th, there's a total solar eclipse, 1924 Aries, that takes place over the US, parts of Canada, and Mexico. And it'll be exactly conjunct Chiron at the time. This is really, really big eclipse. This one, April 8th. Of all the eclipses that are, of the 4 that are listed here, the April 8th, 2024 one is the big one. September 18th, 2024 is the partial lunar eclipse at 25 Pisces, visible in North and South America and parts of Africa and Western Europe. That'll be conjunct Neptune at the time. So that'll be an interesting eclipse. All eclipses are important, but the April 8th and the September 18th one are big, April 8th being the biggest of them all. And then October 2nd is a big one. It's an annular solar eclipse at 10 degrees Libra. But very few people will be able to see that. It does go over places like Chile and Argentina, but most of the world's population, like 95+% of it, will not be able to see this eclipse here. But it's happening, so the whole of humanity does feel that. So where does this eclipse take place? Well, here's the path. You can see it over Canada, the Atlantic, and the Pacific Ocean, Mexico, and part of the Midwest and the Great Lakes region, and up into the New England, partly into the New England area of the US, and down into the central Mexico and out the just south of the Baja California area of Mexico. And in the US, here are the locations. The eclipse Pacific time is from 10:25 a.m. to 12:19 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And the 4.5-minute eclipse is from 11:15 a.m. to 11:20 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'm hoping to be in Ohio for this eclipse. I don't know if, depending on the flights, there's the airlines have jacked up the prices months ago, and I've continued to try to look for that. So that's something I'm continuing to look at and get into there. So my girlfriend and I are trying to see if we can find a time to get out there, and I've got some people and connections that I can connect with and maybe do some astrology work and watch the eclipse out there. But so this is something you can, these maps that I'm showing here, I get from timeanddate.com. That's a great resource for looking at eclipses, but also time differences and occultations and other things like that you can tune into. I think there's occultations in there, but there's a lot of things to do with the calendar and the sun and the moon. So definitely utilize that as a resource. And then the annular eclipse on October 2nd, you can see here that most of it takes place. Hawaii will have a partial eclipse, but you can see it takes place in the middle of the ocean. There's some islands in the South Pacific. Here, I can't remember what those ones are, but the center of the eclipse goes through very few population center. So it's more like maybe 99% of humans will not be able to see this unless they travel to these places to see this. This is a 7.5 minute annular solar eclipse. And then there's some occultations of planets during this time. And you could see here that the only visible one that I found that, at least here in North America, that we can see is September 17th, 2024, with Saturn. These are the moon occulting or covering up a planet. And the difference between occultation and eclipse is an occultation doesn't produce a shadow on the Earth. An eclipse does. So there you go. But there are other occultations that happen most like either in the daytime or just like over areas where there's nobody around. But if you like connecting with occultations, I suggest you go to Guy Otwell and his if you do a Google search for Guy Otwell, he's got an astronomical calendar, and you could find that he's got a whole list of occultations in his annual astronomical calendar that he produces. And I've got several of those, and he's got an online version on PDF, and he's also got a printed version as well. So those are all the major highlights. Of course, there are other things that happen, and I'll be following that and creating videos for much of those. But I've with all of my travels and stuff, sometimes I don't get the videos out in time, or I have goes a few weeks before I create videos. Like the last one I did was for December, at the beginning of December, and then this video here, overview of 2024. So the next one I create may not be until after the first of the year, and maybe start to put some attention, maybe revisiting some other kinds of videos, maybe talking about Mars and Venus, the conjunction coming up in February, talking about the other alignments that are coming in, and I'll put some attention on that. So stay tuned for that. And I recommend, if you want to know more of that, what I do is find on spiralnexus.com. Most of my current writings are on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as well as some writings on YouTube and along with the videos. And then you can also go to mystaralchemy.com for courses I co-facilitate with Kaylin Castell. And then my initial learning of shamanic astrology came from the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. They're now called Journey of the Ages. So you can find them at journeyoftheages.com. And I do this professionally. I do astrological readings, astrocartography or astrolocation classes, events, and other things that are also in person and online. So you can email me at inspiralnexus@gmail.com. And yeah, I'm open to any questions or thoughts or comments. Feel free to share with me. And thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you do like this video, and share it also with those that may be interested in astrological happenings. I wish you all a happy holidays and a happy 2024 coming up. Take care, everyone.